You're listening to the Fan Club Podcast, where two polar opposites discover each other's fandoms for the very first time.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode number 52 of the Fan Club Podcast. My name is Sarah.
This is Matthew.
And today we will be covering Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. Just a reminder that we have an exclusive design on our merch store. That is the Horcrux design that I hand drew myself with my blood, sweat, and tears. And I'd love it for you guys to go check it out. Follow Matthew's Instagram.
Yes, I'm about to post more images. I'm doing a chicken right now. I'm slow cooking, smoking a chicken right now with my chicken seasoning and some other stuff. And I will put in the description what I all use ingredients-wise. Not for what I use in my seasoning. What I use when I smoke a chicken or slow cook a chicken.
Yeah, go check those out. All of our links will be in the description. And, so, Chamber of Secrets.
Yes.
This was the first,
What is...
I got into the series about the time that this film came out.
I think I'm similar.
I do remember a funny story. So how old was I? 8 when this movie came out. And I remember, I don't remember exactly what I did, but I was at a family friend's house, whose son is like a year older than me. And I had said something mean to him or something. And I was begging him not to tell my mom, because she would basically say oh, you can't go to the movie now, because she had promised to take me to the movie the next weekend.
Yeah.
And so I was so nervous that he would tell my mom. Honestly, it was just 8-year-old stuff, you know? But
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know, it was funny. I do remember being terrified of this movie in the theaters.
It was because it was the first time that we saw a lot more of the magical beasts in it.
The spiders have never bothered me. It's always been the basilisk that has always bothered me.
Yeah.
Which is funny because, most people are the opposite. I don't think I would feel super comfortable being in a cave full of giant spiders. But, they don't creep me out the way that it creeps most people out, I think.
Yeah, no. Yes, the spiders are terrifying, but the snake is more terrifying to me.
Yeah, the snake has always been more terrifying. Just the concept of, it being in the walls and traveling through the plumbing, and, it always really creeped me out, and it was so huge and terrifying. It's funny because I don't think the CGI specifically on the basilisk has aged that badly.
No, but wasn't it also practical?
There was a practical snake head for when Harry stabs it through the mouth.
But the rest of it...
But the rest, I'm pretty sure they used this practical head for other shots too, but specifically that one.
Okay.
But a lot of it was CGI.
Okay.
And I don't think it aged that poorly, at least not in comparison to, the Quidditch, for example.
The Quidditch was always bad, even in, the 6th movie with the Quidditch, when Ron was trying out.
I don't think the 6th one was that bad with the Quidditch.
They've all been bad with the Quidditch. It's still not as bad as...
It's that one scene in the first movie where Neville, loses control of his broom. And he's, falling, and it's giving very much, early 2000s video game. Uncanny Valley,
Yeah.
it's
still...
Even the troll scene, too, in the first film.
This was also... The first one came out in, 2001?
Yeah. But, the crazy thing about the production of Chamber of Secrets is that... So, they had the premiere in November of the first film.
Uh-huh.
And then, immediately the next... right after they got back to England after the premieres, they started production on the second one. Because they were so worried about the kids aging too much.
Yeah.
And so, in just such a short amount of time... Everything's so greatly improved.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because they almost, if I don't know, how many of you listening to this have watched the reunion special, but, like, I remember Chris Columbus basically said that the director of the first two, said that they kind of shot the first two movies as, like, almost like one movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it felt in a lot of ways.
I mean, but a lot of young actor star movies do that. Kind of like with Spider-Man. It felt like Spider-Man, Far From Home and No Way Home were literally 1 week apart from each other.
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
I just think
I'm not calling Spider-Man young actors.
I just think it's kind of crazy.
It's just similar to that.
How quick of a turnaround it was, and yet, like, things so greatly improved. I guess by the time they're doing post-production, some of the CGI has advanced in technology.
Yes, because the movie came out in 2002.
Yeah.
It came out,
So, I think that Chamber of Secrets is far and away a better movie than Prisoner of Azkaban. Or, sorry, not Prisoner. Oh my god, no. Far and away better movie than Philosopher's Stone is.
Yeah.
I think it's just, like, and maybe that's an unpopular opinion, and I'm willing to live with that.
I'm
but
not really a huge fan of the first two. Just because,
Yeah.
like, they felt too
oversaturated.
No, I wouldn't say oversaturated.
No, and, like, in terms of color tone, felt too happy.
Yes, it felt too happy-go-lucky.
I have seen people criticize Prisoner of Azkaban for it being jarring, going from these super oversaturated, happy-go-lucky...
But that's how they were in the books, though.
And then immediately going into Prisoner of Azkaban with such a greatly different tone.
But that's how the books were.
But, like, I don't know. It's funny because Chamber of Secrets was never my favorite book. Even to this day, it's not my favorite book. But I think the movie... I enjoy the movie more as an adult than I ever did as a kid.
Okay.
I think it's because... I think it really freaked me out as a kid with the giant snake.
Like, we learn more about Voldemort in this one.
And we don't technically, like, explicitly learn about the Horcruxes, but it's our first iteration of the Horcruxes.
It is.
It's our first introduction to house elves. It's our first introduction to blood purity.
It's, like, it's a vital part to the overall story.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of what it introduces.
I've heard a lot of people draw correlations between 1 and 7 and 2 and 6. And I guess then 3 and 5 because of, like, the prominent Sirius and Lupin. And then I guess 4 is kind of hanging on its own in the middle.
Yeah, because it was... In the first one,
it's like the I open at the close kind of thing.
But I wouldn't... But 6 is really good. And if you're comparing 6 to 2...
No, I think 6 because it expands on the whole Horcrux situation. It dives into Voldemort's backstory. It's, you know... It has more parallels to 2 than any other.
But... 3 and 5 aren't really...
Other than Sirius and Lupin being prominent.
But Sirius was prominent in 3 or in 4.
Kind of. But with 2, we get introduced to... Well, I guess we got introduced to Ginny in 1, but, like, she's barely there.
Yeah, she's in, 2 scenes?
She has 1 line in the movie.
Yeah.
But we get introduced... And the movies... And this is a big point of contention with Ginny in the movies, is they don't give her much to do. And I really think it's a writing problem, and not necessarily an acting problem.
But it was the same with Ron, so it was just... It felt like someone had it out for the Weasley fictional family.
Well, really, I think this has been a big thing within the fandom that a lot of people think that just, like, Steve Kloves is, like, a huge Hermione stan. And the guy who wrote the movies.
Yeah.
Or the screenwriter, I should say.
Yeah.
And that's why Hermione gets so much to do, and the other characters get kind of watered down a little bit. And, like, Ginny in the books is one of my favorite characters. And
Yeah.
I relate to her so much. I also have 2 older brothers. I guess I don't have 6 older brothers, but I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've always really related to her as a person, and she's so watered down in the movies. And, like, a lot of people who've only seen the movies don't see her connection with Harry.
I mean, in the movies, they really don't have a connection.
Frankly, I think that boils down to, like, Bonnie and Dan just didn't have chemistry.
Like, Harry really didn't get along with any
I think
female love interests.
His chemistry with Cho isn't terrible.
But
But kind of gets overshadowed by Cedric's death a little bit.
Harry was a rebound for Cho.
For sure.
Absolutely was a rebound.
But also, like, Harry was dealing with his own PTSD and all that crap. So, like, I don't think him and Cho really had a fair shot, if I'm being completely honest with you.
No, but, like, him and the Patel sisters.
Okay. The twins?
The twins. Harry and Ron were horrible to them.
They were terrible to them.
Yes. Harry is horrible to all of his love interests.
Yeah, but they were just, like, dates to the dance, to be fair. But, like...
They were literally their last choice.
Yeah,
because everyone else told them no.
What sucks, though, is that... Well, specifically Parvati, is, like, in Harry's house... Padma is a Ravenclaw in the books.
Yes.
But Parvati is, like... You know, he's one of Harry's classmates that he sees all of the time. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that she... Like, he sees her all the time.
Yeah.
And he's just a dick to her. And, like, I don't blame Parvati for not liking Ron after that, because he was awful to her sister. And then maybe, like, that's why it kind of fed into, like, Parvati not wanting Lavender to date Ron. Because, you know, Padma was treated so horribly.
Yeah.
But
they also could have just been the anxious boys not knowing what to do.
Oh, I think a lot of that is true.
But, I mean, other than those 3, did Harry have any other love interests that you can think of?
I mean, Ramil Devane had a huge crush on him in 6, but, like, other than that, Ramil Devane, he, like, gets a love potion from her. Like, and that Ron eats it.
That's right.
But, like, it's one-sided. He's not into her.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of people have shipped Harry and Luna together, which I think is kind of sweet.
They would be good together.
I don't know how I feel about it long-term, but they are very sweet.
I mean, they're better to each other than Ron and Hermione. Harry and Hermione, I think, would have been the best choice. Because she would keep Harry in check.
That's the thing. In the books, the subtext between Harry and Hermione is always that she kind of drives him a little bit crazy. Like, she's way too overanalytical, way too naggy. She kind of treats him like she's his mom a lot of the time.
True.
His internal monologue in the books is very much like he rolls his eyes at her a lot. He's frustrated with her. And, like, one of the big things is, like, in Prisoner of Azkaban, when Hermione's time traveling, Ron is, like, always the one to be, like, noticing that she's gone. Harry doesn't notice.
True.
Then again, Harry's dumb.
Harry is dumb. I mean...
Anyway, Chamber of Secrets.
Harry Potter is just Star Wars with terrible lightsabers.
You got that from a meme.
But it's not wrong.
So, we get introduced to... arguably a polarizing character, Dobby.
Yeah.
Some people hate Dobby, which I'm like, I don't get how.
What Dobby did was, I mean, in all honesty, if a house elf disobeys their master, they can get put 6 feet under.
Also, speaking of this Dobby scene, so Harry gets back up to his bedroom, and Dobby's there and making a bunch of noise and, like, disturbing the Dursleys downstairs. And Mr. Dursley comes upstairs and he's like, "You interrupted my Japanese gopher joke. I'm not telling you what the joke is because it's insanely inappropriate and I'm not saying it." But it is, mentioning that in a Harry Potter movie is, for children, I made the mistake of Googling it one day.
Ooh.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Please don't Google what that joke is. But I'll explain it to you later.
Okay.
But I just thought it was really funny that they put that into basically a children's movie. Get introduced to the flying Ford Anglia.
Yes.
And I've never really had an interest in cars whatsoever, but, like, having a Ford Anglia would be really cool.
In all honesty, shouldn't Arthur Weasley be in, like, jail for modifying Muggle items? Which, isn't that part of the statute of secrecy?
No, because there's a line in the book, in this breakfast scene, when he comes home, and he basically said that there's loopholes in place to make that not happen, and Molly calls him out. It's like, loopholes that you wrote.
So, technically, he should be in jail.
But he wrote loopholes in it, so he's fine.
Yes, but still, technically, he should be in jail. Because part of the statute of secrecy was to have no interaction with Muggle-based items.
I think it's more of a...
I know you can't interact with Muggles.
No, it's not that. It's more they just don't want to be seen. They don't want to be exposed.
True.
And, like, they're, like... Arthur's entire department is the misuse of Muggle artifacts office. So, like, he talks about how...
The misuse, like making a flying car.
It's mostly so, like, he talks about specifically this, like, enchanted tea set that, like, bit a woman, and so he had to, like, go, like, they had to go obliviate her and stuff.
But what he does with the car and the clock and everything else,
and Sirius's motorbike,
and probably Hagrid's motorbike.
Hagrid's motorbike is Sirius's motorbike.
Okay.
I meant to mention that in our first episode, but I forgot.
Yeah. So, technically, he's making cursed objects, essentially. He's making objects that are Muggle-made, the same thing with the tea set.
It's interesting to me because Arthur is very much... everybody's dad in that way. Like, he like tinkers and has like hyper focuses, and
so the Weasleys and
like
the Potters
obsessed with
were
radios
friends,
and
essentially.
Stuff. I don't know if Molly and Arthur knew Lily and James, because I think Lily and James are much younger.
But if Sirius's bike was modified by Arthur, then Sirius had to know the Weasleys.
I think because they weren't in the original order. I know Molly's brothers were in the original order.
Yeah.
But they didn't go to school at the same time because they were... I think the Weasleys are a lot older. Or not a lot older, but...
I know what you mean. But...
Because James and Lily are only 21 when they died.
But also, they had to know each other because like you say, the 28 families...
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
True.
How many of your extended cousins have you met?
True. No, I'm not saying they've met. What I'm saying is that they know of each other.
So if you're not aware, there's this... I'm sure that there's a whole document where you can look it up, but there is... All of the pureblood families in the Wizarding World are related. It's called the Sacred 28.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of names you'll recognize. Weasley, Malfoy, Black, Potter, a bunch of the Death Eater names.
Gaunt, which is Tom Riddle's, mother's family?
There's a whole, like, it was on what used to be Pottermore. I don't know what it is nowadays. I think it's like wizardingworld.com or something like that.
Yes, it's just the Wizarding World wiki.
It's listed out if like you're interested in looking that up, but it's called the Sacred 28.
Mm-hmm.
And basically lays out that everybody is kind of distantly related.
Yeah.
Which makes the whole like concept of blood purity even weirder.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of like the Royals in that way.
Yes.
Where like everybody is like super inbred.
Royals a long, long time ago. Not modern day.
Not much anymore. I mean,
modern day, like 1800 Royals.
Yeah, I mean, you still see it occasionally where they try to marry somebody off to their second cousin or something. Well, I mean, like, Philip and Elizabeth were, like, I think second cousins or something.
True.
And that, in grand scheme of life, was not that long ago.
Yeah. That was, what, the 40s, 50s?
I mean, she became queen in the 60s. I'm not entirely sure when she was married.
Isn't she, like, the longest running queen?
Yeah.
Or the longest running, like, person in power?
I think she's, like, was the oldest reigning British monarch. And definitely the oldest reigning woman monarch.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong on that fact.
I don't know.
But, yeah, the concept of blood purity comes up quite a bit in this, series.
Going forward from here.
Not
so much in the fourth one.
Yeah, but it's always kind of, like, there. It's always kind of, like, a subtext.
Are the Dumbledores, part of the Sacred 28?
I'm not sure, actually. They might be.
So, when you say the 28, you mean in, like, Hogwarts, because there has to be more than 28 purebloods.
Well, the British wizarding world is not that big.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So, like, the Sacred 28 or whatever it is just part of the British wizarding world.
It's just the UK, yeah.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware. I mean, I don't have all the knowledge in the world.
Like, the Grindelwalds, aren't they pure?
I don't know. See, this creates a lot of questions because...
But Grindelwald's also not part of the UK one. He's part of Durmstrom's.
Well, yeah, because he's from, like, Eastern Europe, I think. I'm not entirely sure. Because it's not exactly specified where Durmstrang is. But, like, because the world... But
Durmstrang's on a boat. It sails around the world.
That's the theory.
No, that's what they said.
That's just their transport.
No, I read somewhere that there's schools on the boat.
No, during the tournament when they're parked at Hogwarts, their school is on the boat.
No, I read somewhere on the wiki just like about the different schools and Durmstrom's travels.
I don't know, maybe you read it, because I'm pretty sure their schooling when they're at Hogwarts is on the boat.
Yes, like the Beauxbatons is
on the carriage.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but
isn't Beauxbatons in France?
Yeah, I think since
Durmstrom's would make sense to be in Russia.
Since they expanded the universe with like Fantastic Beasts and all of that, and especially since they expanded the universe with all of the other or all the other wizarding schools throughout the world, I'm not exactly sure where the Sacred 28
still lie.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where if families have been added to it.
I don't think, because you can't really add to something that's called the Sacred 28. You can't really add, if it's like the original purebloods of that area, you can't really add someone.
I don't know, because the last time I looked at it, I can look it up now.
Yeah.
The last time I looked at it, it was several years ago before all of the expansion. Okay, so it's, I'm not going to read all of the names, but you will definitely recognize, if you're a follower of Harry Potter, you will definitely recognize most, if not all, of these names. There's only one that I don't recognize, to be honest with you.
I don't recognize Rozier.
He's a
Death Eater.
But like Pruitt is Molly's maiden name.
Parkinson is one.
Parkinson is Malfoy's girlfriend.
Yeah.
There's a lot, and
I don't recognize Greengrass.
Oh, it's the 28 British families that were still truly pureblood by the 1930s.
Okay.
So that's the distinction here. It is really interesting, especially when you kind of get into the later books talking about, like, especially in Deathly Hallows, when you talk about, like, Muggle-Born Registration Commission, and a lot of the themes in the later books tend to get, and Voldemort's motivations and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The blood purity thing becomes extremely important. But it's interesting that they really make this distinction that, like, two of our most prominent witches of their times, Lily and Hermione, are both Muggleborns.
Yeah.
And they make it a real point to drive that home a lot of the time. There's this really interesting distinction between the Weasleys and the Malfoys. There's a really interesting discussion between Arthur and Lucius. Lucius is like, you disgrace the name of wizard.
Yeah.
And Arthur comes back with, well, like, I have a very different idea of what disgraces the name of wizard.
Yeah.
And can we just talk about Malfoy for a second? His son is so terrified of him. Jason Isaacs genuinely seems like the nicest man on the planet. Like, in interviews and stuff, he's so funny. But it's, like, it's crazy how I've seen behind-the-scenes clips of him where he'll be, like, joking and laughing with people and then flip a switch and he's, like, gritting through his teeth. And, like, this slimy, terrible... apparently he originally auditioned for Gilderoy.
Yeah. I mean, he could be a good Gilderoy.
While we're at it, let's talk about Gilderoy Lockhart, played by Kenneth Branagh, who also directed Thor.
Did he really direct Thor?
The joke is so old at this point. That joke is so old. I genuinely cannot imagine anybody else as as Gilderoy.
Yeah.
Like, Kenneth Branagh is so good. What's funny is he used to be married to Emma Thompson, who plays Trelawney, and cheated on her with Helena Bonham Carter.
Okay.
And apparently, I mean, like, there's no reason for any of them to really be in the same room together throughout the series, but, like, Emma Thompson, like, refused to be in the same room as either of them.
Yeah, no, I don't blame them. But this was also before Harry Potter.
Yeah, this was in, like, the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that, like, it's not funny. Like, I don't rejoice in somebody else's pain, but I find it interesting. Just the dynamics of, like, British acting royalty. What are you writing about?
So, there's an American branch of the Potters. I'm going through the Potter, like generations.
Yeah.
So, the American branch, some point prior to 1693, a branch of the Potter family immigrated to North America. Abraham Potter was among the original 12 Aurors, trained and appointed by the first president of Magical Congress of the United States, Josiah Jackson. Abraham's relation to Harry Potter was uncovered by eager genealogists centuries later. Abraham had descendants which were given particular respect in America ever since.
How do people find this? I mean, that's the HP Wiki, right?
Yes.
I find it really funny that... So, Harry gets accused of being the heir of Slytherin after Mrs. Norris gets attacked. Which, first of all, this is such a side note. There is a theory that I 100% buy, honestly, that Mrs. Norris is... So, a couple of years ago, it was revealed that in the Fantastic Beasts series, which we don't talk about, that Nagini was a woman that
had a blood curse.
That got transformed into a snake permanently.
Because she was an animagus and could turn into a snake.
So there's a theory that Mrs. Norris has the same thing.
Yeah.
And that she's Mr. Filch's wife.
Yeah.
I don't hate the theory. And that makes sense why Mrs. Norris is, like, really smart.
Yeah.
But it also could be that she's part Kneazle as well.
Yeah.
So, like Crookshanks is. I don't know.
I mean, but, yeah.
I don't hate the theory, though. But after Mrs. Norris gets attacked, Harry gets accused of being the heir of Slytherin, and so the trio needs to go on this, like, quest to find out who the real heir of Slytherin is. And they automatically have Malfoy pegged as the heir of Slytherin. Yeah. Which I'm like, how? Like, I get that he is awful and racist and terrible, but, like, the boy is terrible and, like, can barely, like, bully other children.
Yeah.
What makes you think he can, like, petrify people?
True.
Like, Draco is not capable of that.
Yeah.
Especially at that age. Like, sure, he's capable of more in, like, Half-Blood Prince. Like, he attacks people and stuff. But, like...
Yeah.
At this age, he's a bully and he's bad at it. I just find it so funny that, like, we did the whole thing in the first book of, like, Snape's the bad guy, oh, JK. Now we're gonna do it again with Draco's the bad guy, oh, JK.
Yeah.
I get that it's a kid's book and I shouldn't read too far into it, but the dueling club scene with Snape and Gilderoy.
Yeah.
Having Kenneth Branagh and Alan Rickman do this incredible dueling club scene is so iconic. It's so entertaining and so funny to watch these two just posturing to each other. And the way that, like, Lockhart is, like, posing and he's, like, swishing his cape and, like, throws it to these girls.
I just learned something interesting.
Can you pay attention?
I am.
So, Draco then casts a spell. So, basically, they have Draco and Harry dueling. And Draco casts a spell that creates a snake, and everybody finds out that he's a Parseltongue. I love how Harry is so baffled that he can speak a language. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It is just... watching these movies in hindsight is... I loved Arakov, don't get me wrong, but this scene specifically when he and Ron and Hermione are like, you know, I spoke a different language. And, like, he's overacting his heart out.
Yeah.
And it is so funny to me. Then Colin Creevey and Justin Finch-Fletchley get attacked and nearly Headless Nick.
Okay, my thing with that is, how can a ghost get petrified? How?
Because it literally says, Nick gets full blast of it, but he's a ghost, he can't die again.
So,
And in the book, he's described as being, like, kind of, like, opaque and smoky.
but he's still a ghost.
Yeah.
Ghosts can't be harmed.
But it's magic.
In every other mythology known to man,
It's magic, you know.
the god of lightning and thunder and the god of gods in Greek mythology can't get rid of a ghost. How can magic? When a literal god...
I don't know, just go with it.
It just sounds like she was trying something.
Just go with it. And then Hermione gets petrified. Oh, we have the rogue bludger. That's when we find out Colin Creevey gets attacked.
Yeah.
And I love Colin Creevey unabashedly. I think he's very sweet.
But then we never see him again.
That's not true.
When do we see him again?
Deathly Hallows, he sneaks back into the castle during the battle, even though he's underage, and gets killed. Because he wants to fight, because he's part of the DA.
So, from 2...
I think he's mentioned, like, a handful of times.
to 7, we don't see him.
He's mentioned a handful of times in the books. He gets replaced with in the movies with this character named Nigel, which I don't really get why, but they essentially serve the same purpose.
Okay. Just useless waste of space just to die.
He doesn't die in the movie though. Like, but he's basically there to be like doing errands for Ron. And he gets like a really cute scene in Order of the Phoenix with like the DA, but like other than that, he really doesn't serve a purpose. Then we find the diary.
Yes.
And this is the first Horcrux that we ever see.
Technically, it's the second.
What's the first?
Harry.
Oh my god.
Technically.
Spoiler alert for Deathly Hallows.
Technically.
I do really like this line from the book that Ron essentially says, because his dad works with Muggle items, his dad warns him against getting invested in a book where you can't see where it keeps its brain.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So, this sort of deals with Sorcerer's Stone, which I didn't think about. Is Voldemort's real body buried somewhere? like his first body?
I've literally never thought about that in my life.
Like, is his body buried?
I don't know how to answer that. Can anyone else answer that for me?
Because, so, with the Voldemort fetus in 4,
we'll get to that.
But that's his new body in 4. His original body has to be buried.
Did he look like Ralph Fiennes?
Did Voldemort look like what Voldemort looks like now?
Did he look like Ralph Fiennes? Or did he look like the guy on the back of Quirrell's head?
Yeah.
Because the guy on the back of Quirrell's head had a nose.
Yeah. So, unless if the body just disintegrated from the power of love.
I've literally never once thought about that. I've overanalyzed the crap out of some things in this series, and never that.
Like, I was just thinking about one of the...
Let me know if y'all have any input on that, because I have nothing.
Because I was just thinking about one of the later Horcruxes.
So, I asked on Instagram, is there anything in Chamber of Secrets that you guys think we should mention? And there is a scene when Harry and Ron dress up as Crabbe and Goyle, and they go down, and they run into Percy, and Percy's like... And they run into Draco, and Harry accidentally keeps his glasses on.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know you could read.
Apparently that was because Tom forgot his line.
Mm-hmm.
So he was improvising.
My favorite version of that scene is in the Lego game, because it's still
I love that they have, like, Crabbe and Goyle's hair, like, bouncing on top of them.
Yes. Like, if you have not played the Lego Harry Potter games...
They're so funny.
You need to play them. I know on PlayStation, it's like $4 right now for 1 through 4 and 5 through 7.
I banned myself from that game because I will play it all night.
She can only play if I'm playing. And we still need to 100% it on Xbox before we start doing 100%ing it on PlayStation.
I'm awful at video games, like terrible at video games.
And you're still terrible at the Lego game.
And yeah, but I think it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it more than I enjoy the other Lego games. The other Lego games I don't like.
Because they talk?
I don't like the dialogue.
But so...
The Lego games are the most fun when they're just like trying to make dialogue out of like noises and pictures.
My favorite from the Lego games is when... I mean, everyone here has seen the Harry Potter movies.
If you haven't, bye.
Like, I'm sorry.
I don't know why you clicked on this.
But we talk about all the movies at once. My favorite part of the Lego game is the end of the 4th one, where when Cedric's dead and like in pieces, and Dumbledore just gives like a how-to guide on how to rebuild him.
He just gives him like a what is the book called when you build
manual.
When you build a Lego set in
Instruction
person?
manual. He just gives him an instruction manual on how to rebuild Cedric. I love the CG, or not CGI. I love the cutscenes in the Lego games because they just make noises like the minions, but you can understand what they're saying. It's just the battles are a pain in the rear, especially the second one, the snake.
The scene where they take Polyjuice Potion, I don't know what they used for Polyjuice Potion, but it's nasty looking. Like, and the kids actually had to drink it, so it had to have been edible. But, like, it literally looks like chunky oatmeal.
Ew.
It looks like chunky gray oatmeal.
So, Hermione, in that scene, she had cat hair that she drank.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, I thought you couldn't turn into an animal with
That's
Polyjuice.
why, so in the book, it's described that she's like that. It takes, like, Madame Pomfrey, like, a couple of, like, weeks to a month to get her back to normal, because it's not used for animal transformation.
So.
But apparently, I always thought that they did the cat makeup as, like, I always thought that it was CGI. Apparently, it's completely practical.
Yes, and it was the stunt double.
It was the stunt double.
Because
Emma Watson was allergic to the glue, apparently.
Yep.
which I find really interesting. Recently I found a TikTok of the stunt double talking about it, and she doesn't really look like Emma in the face all that much, but like they were like the same height and the same hair color and the same build and stuff.
I mean, but also covered in fur. But I think they just superimposed Hermione's voice on her.
It was more so the stunt double was like I think she was her body double, not necessarily stunt double.
Yeah, because Hermione never really does any stunts besides running in the 7.1.
But I find that really interesting.
Other than that, does she have any stunts? No.
There's that jumping on the dragon in 7.
That's still 7. In any of the others, is there any stunts?
Order of the Phoenix, when they jump out of the door.
What door in Order of the Phoenix?
In the ministry. They, jump out of the door and they, drop.
Oh, true.
But, yeah. And then we find out that it's a basilisk. Or, no, we go see Aragog first. Because we gotta clear Hagrid. Because for some reason, they think that Hagrid... Because Harry goes into the memory inside the book. Mm-hmm. And, which... Christian Coulson, who plays young Tom Riddle, I love the casting of Christian Coulson.
What they should have done, in my opinion, was... But they also didn't know that they were going to get Ralph Fiennes to play Voldemort at this
Apparently,
time.
young Voldemort in 6 is Ralph Fiennes' nephew.
Yes. But what I was going to say is have a teenager related to Ralph Fiennes to play Tom Riddle.
I don't think they thought that far ahead.
But because they didn't have Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort yet.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how Voldemort was going to look.
So, funny story. I used to do a lot of YA fiction reading a couple of years ago. I don't have time for it or the mental capacity for it anymore. But
I never would have guessed a millennial woman reading a fantasy novel. Never would have guessed. Fantasy or dystopian.
It wasn't dystopian. It was like a historical fiction, I think.
Shoot, while we were in high school and middle school, all that came out was either fantasy or dystopian. So, a couple years ago, I read a book called The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. It's basically like a historical fiction. It's not important what the book actually was, but I'm a big audiobook person, and so I was reading the book while I was playing the audiobook. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why does this voice sound so dang familiar? And so I looked it up, and it was Christian Coulson. Nice.
And I was like, I'm sorry, a young Voldemort is narrating this book to me?
But
I couldn't unhear it after that. I was like, all I'm hearing is him just being as Ginny grows weaker, I grow stronger. Also, the actor playing young Hagrid is only shown in shadow. That cannot be Robbie Coltrane.
No, not in the slightest.
So that implies that Hagrid and Voldemort are the same age.
Yes. No. Voldemort was a 5th year and Hagrid was a 2nd year.
I guess. No, he was a 3rd year when he was expelled.
3rd year. So he's 2 years younger than Voldemort.
And Voldemort was 72 when he died, I think, is the math. He's born in 1926, so you do the math.
So yeah.
But
also Hagrid's a giant, so they age slower.
Not necessarily.
In multiple mythologies, giants age slower.
I don't think that's ever been explicitly said in Harry Potter specifically.
Yeah, but in other mythologies, giants age. The numbers are the same, but their looking age is slower.
Well, I mean, Hagrid's 150, Dumbledore's 150 when he dies.
Yeah. Honestly, if Voldemort didn't make the Horcruxes, he would have lived a lot longer. Or just made one.
Because...
Just make a grain of sand.
I think that Voldemort's greatest downfall is his arrogance. And I've said that for years, and I will continue to say it.
But why did he want 7?
Because 7 is a magic number.
True. True.
I don't know. So, yeah, we meet young Young.
No, don't. Just leave the puns to me. just leave the age puns to me. Youngdemort.
Youngdemort. I like that.
Just leave the puns to me.
And at this time, Dumbledore was the Transfiguration professor. He was...
Okay, so...
In Fantastic Beasts, they changed it to...
Defense of Dark Arts.
Yeah.
But also... He could have been... Because Voldemort wasn't at school yet. In Fantastic Beasts. So that he could have changed...
He was born the year the first one
so he could
takes
have...
place.
He could have changed...
He could have.
Kind of like Snape in the 6th.
Also, I have questions because so
I mean, Snape changed.
This is the 50s. This memory flashback
yes.
is the 50s, and there's a flashback in I think the second Fantastic Beasts.
50s? If he was born in 1929, it can't be in the 1950s.
1926. So it's
then it can't be 50s. It has to be late 30s, early 40s.
Okay. So how does Dumbledore go from Jude Law wearing 3-piece suits to Richard Harris
wearing flowy capes
in like 10 years?
No, he wasn't wearing the flowy capes in 10 years. He was still wearing the 3-piece suit when Dumbledore met Voldemort in the orphanage. He was still wearing the suits.
Yeah, but he didn't look like Jude Law. He wasn't like young, hot Dumbledore.
Well, breaking the blood curse or the blood bond could have affected him.
That's actually not a bad explanation. I was getting ready to be mad at you.
Kind of like in Hogwarts Legacy, where the Defense of Dark Arts teacher looks old as time because she messed with time. And, to your logic from earlier, magic. Better? Better?
Sure.
Because you said magic to my answer earlier, so magic to yours.
Magic.
No, but... I mean, here you should have guessed he was parcel tongue after speaking to a snake at the first one, but whatever.
There is this fan theory that I've seen floating around.
That Harry's a dum-dum?
Well, that's true. There's a fan theory that, like, the snake that he talks to in the first one is Nagini, which I think is absolute BS.
They don't look the same.
Well, one, because the first snake that he talks to is a boa constrictor, and Nagini is a venomous snake.
Maybe they changed what Nagini was going to be. Maybe in original writing, Nagini was going to be that snake.
But also she was supposedly... The boa constrictor was bred in captivity. And if Nagini is originally was supposed to be a woman...
I mean, could have taken into captivity and bred.
I hate that fan theory, like, so much. It's so dumb.
But they could have changed because Nagini from Fantastic Beasts, there's no way she would have venom in her. In theory.
Yeah, but she's established to have venom because, when she attacks Mr. Weasley in 5.
Yes.
She has venom.
But...
And she kills Snape.
What I'm saying is...
Spoiler.
Nagini in Fantastic Beasts, I think, was a boa constrictor. I don't think... Because, an animagus I don't believe would have venom. Because you just change your physical appearance. You don't change...
Really, I think the issue here is that Nagini used to be a woman, not that... I think that's the issue in the plot hole here.
Yes. But...
Anyway, we're off topic.
No, but...
I just had to mention that because I forgot to mention it in the first one.
But an animagus, I doubt shoot poison. Can be poisonous because that's changing essentially your core DNA.
I mean, you do make a good point.
Because in animagus, you change your form. You don't change your DNA.
So then, Hermione gets petrified. and Ron and Harry have to go to the forest to meet Aragog. This is a scene that's, like, really creepy for a lot of people.
And really, like, stress-inducing in the Lego game.
It's a terrible level. That level sucks so much.
No, I'm just talking about the driving scene out of it.
No, I hate it.
The build-up,
it's so stressful.
The build-up isn't terrible. The fight is terrible
I
at the end.
completely forgot to mention Moaning Myrtle. Oh, hello, Harry.
Where people thought she was just Daniel Radcliffe in a wig for the longest
That's so
time.
stupid.
Because they looked the same.
Shirley Henderson, who plays Moaning Myrtle, was, like, in her 30s when she shot that.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to be 15. And what's really creepy is, like, in this scene in Goblet of Fire, where she's, like, basically hitting on Harry.
Yeah.
And, like, basically seeing him naked. I'm like, I get that she's, like, stuck as a 15-year-old girl, but that scene gives me the ick.
Yeah. And I still find it funny that people thought it was just Daniel Radcliffe in a wig.
I do, however, love Shirley Henderson in the Marie Antoinette movie with Kirsten Dunst. Love that movie. That movie is amazing.
So, where were all the ghosts in the Hogwarts battle?
Do you have to point everything out?
Like,
you're sucking all the fun out of this for me.
It's not my fault I can find the plot holes in this franchise. You were finding the plot holes in the Marvel movies, don't even.
Was I?
True. But finding plot holes is easy for me. And fun.
So yeah, they go to see Aragog. He basically tells them that he's not the monster in the Chamber of Secrets, but something that the spiders all fear. I'm like, okay, thanks for all the suspense, Aragog. You could just, like, tell us, but whatever. And they find the piece of paper in Hermione's hand that basically says pipes, so Harry then deduces that it is a snake.
Did you know?
Which is arguably the smartest thing that Harry ever does throughout the entire series. Even though Hermione kind of did the work for him. But, like, Harry's intuition and his problem-solving skills are pretty decent. Even though she kind of gave him the answer. But she kind of gives him half the answer and then he does the rest of the work.
Ron and Harry are both useless in this entire movie. Hermione, like you said, does all the hard work. And then Harry and Ron reap all the glory from it.
So then they find out that Ginny was taken by the monster.
Yeah.
Which, I forgot to mention, there's a scene earlier when McGonagall explains the relations between all the founders and stuff. Which, as we're recording this, it was announced a couple of days ago that there's going to be a new series. And that is like a season of book. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I kind of wish we were getting a Founder series. Like, kind of like a la like House of the Dragon a little bit.
I don't. Because, what would they do?
I don't know. We said the same thing about House of the Dragon when it was first announced.
True.
So, to be fair, that also had source material, but... So, they figure out that the Chamber of Secrets entrance is in the girls' bathroom.
And they take Lockhart for some dumb reason.
Okay, first of all, I know that they didn't know that was the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets. But, where was the entrance prior to plumbing?
I think right there.
But was it just a hole in the ground?
I mean, that's how bathrooms used to be.
Was it just...
I think they always had piping, but they didn't have running water.
No, like... we don't need to dwell on it, but there's this whole article on Pottermore about, like, Hogwarts before plumbing. I don't want to dwell on it because it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
But, so clearly there was Hogwarts before plumbing.
Yes, Hogwarts has been around since, like...
Yes, I know.
The 900s.
That's what my point is. If Salazar Slytherin built this chamber, how did he get into it?
originally, from what I read on the Chamber of Secrets, that it was hidden by dark magic. So it was like the entrance to it was like in a wall. Kind of like in Hogwarts Legacy, how you need like the Ploso to open up some of the paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. But you had to
Or
use...
it was similar to like the cave in Half-Blood Prince where Dumbledore had to cut his hand. Like it's a blood thing.
But it was only an heir of Slytherin could open it. And it was with Parcel Tongue. So it was probably just like a wall that you had to go through.
Seems really odd that it's in a sink in the girls' lavatory.
So the people who made the plumbing had to be an heir of Slytherin.
Well, because there's a little snake on the faucet. So
the person who put in the plumbing had to be an heir of Slytherin to know that it was there.
I mean, that is a decent point that you make.
Because it has a snake. So, does that mean that there's a chamber? Because we know that Gryffindor made the headmaster's suite office. We know that Hufflepuff made the kitchen. And we know that Ravenclaw made the room of requirements. So, do you think they have any other, like, secret chambers in Hogwarts?
Hogwarts is full of secrets.
Yeah. So...
like the passages and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. In all honesty, I think Harry should have, like... or even... because wouldn't any of the extra secret hallways and stuff shown up on the Marauders map?
Not always. Like, the room of requirements unplottable.
But it would still show the entrance.
No, it wouldn't. Because when he was tailing Malfoy, Malfoy would just, like, disappear. He would just, like, essentially walk into a wall.
True. So the room requirements always moved.
No.
So Harry should have known that the room requirements was there. Because he
wasn't watching it yet.
The room of requirements...
he already knew about the room of requirement. The only reason he didn't make the connection was because he didn't know other people knew about the room of requirement.
But it was at the same spot. Where Malfoy kept disappearing was where the entrance was to the room of requirements.
I don't know.
It's in the same spot. Just like in Hogwarts Legacy, the entrance is in the exact same spot as in the movie.
But also, when he tried to enter it, Malfoy made it so that nobody else could enter it.
Yes. But Harry should have realized, oh, he went to the room of requirements.
And he didn't know what Malfoy was using the room of requirement for, so he couldn't conjure the same room.
No, I know that. But what I'm saying is he should have put, like, oh, he's going to where we went all last year for the room of requirements, but also Harry's not that bright. Then
they go to Lockhart, and they're basically like, oh, he's a fraud. I don't know how they didn't get that before.
But why would
from the whole Pixie incident?
Why would they go to Lockhart in the first place?
Because Lockhart has been bragging the whole time about knowing the counter curse.
True.
And so then they go down, and they find the giant snake skin, which... blech. And all of these, like, rat skeletons. Double ugh.
God, Harry could have made so much money from taking the basilisk back up top and selling it for snake skin boots.
Yeah, but then they wouldn't conveniently have a basilisk skeleton full of fangs to kill Horcruxes with.
True. True.
Don't even get me started on that terrible, terrible plot hole of, like, Ron, like, watching Harry in his sleep and knowing how to speak Parselton. Don't even get me started.
No. The fang ripped out of the basilisk's mouth when Harry stabbed it. The fang was in his hand. Ron picked up the fang that Harry used.
No.
He ripped off a new one?
In the movie, he ripped it out. We never see it in the book. We just see it after the fact.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, how would Ron know the correct phrase to say?
Apparently he watches Harry in his sleep. I'm like, Ron, you are not that observant. Stop.
Or no, Harry talks in his sleep and he overheard.
Yeah, it's just...
But...
He has heard Harry speak personal tongue intentionally a couple of times, so maybe...
Twice.
Maybe, but...
Twice. Ever. No, 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times.
So, he gets into the Chamber of Secrets. There's a whole, like, rock collision. Lockhart loses his memory, which I love that interaction of, like, it's really quite filthy down here.
So...
Do you live here?
Could Quirrell have spoken Parseltongue?
I don't know.
Because Voldemort was a part of Quirrell.
Yeah.
So, Quirrell technically would have been able to speak Parseltongue.
Quirrell's a proxy.
But still a part of. So technically he was a Horcrux. Technically, because he had Voldemort's soul in him. And to make a Horcrux, you put part of your soul in an object.
Somebody sound off on that because I don't have an intelligent response to that.
Technically, he is. Like how Harry is a Horcrux. Because when Voldemort got killed by the love spell, or the power of love, which is...
The spell rebounded.
Yes. So, Harry became a Horcrux. Technically, wouldn't Quirrell be a Horcrux? Because his soul was in Quirrell.
So, Harry finds Ginny passed out in the Chamber of Secrets. And, I'm sorry, like, how did people... I guess people didn't know about the Chamber of Secrets. But how did people not know that Salazar Slytherin was an evil dude? Like, he literally has this secret chamber...
No one knew
full
about
of
it.
Snakes.
No, one snake.
The snake statues. And a giant statue of himself.
He made it... What is it called?
Secret.
So, do you think
I'm
people
just saying.
Do you think people would know about the Chamber of Secrets that he made in secret that no one else knows the secret?
I realize how dumb that sentence sounded. But also there is some interesting discourse on whether Salazar Slytherin... Obviously, racism is bad. You know, obviously, blood purity is bad. Mm-hmm. But, like, whether or not in his time, maybe he felt he was justified. I'm not saying I think he's justified. I'm saying he might have felt he was justified.
Because he wanted Hogwarts to just be for purebloods.
Well, no, because it was at the time of, like really bad prejudice against wizards.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, wizards were being killed and rounded up and all this stuff. So, like, he felt as though this was the way to keep them safe.
Yeah, because the Statute of Secrecy was what, during Salem witch trials?
Something like that. I think it was like the 1680s or something.
Which not even a real witch was even killed during them. As we learned in Crucible that we had to read in high school.
You act like I actually read that. I read, like, the SparkNotes version of it.
Same here, and we watched the movie in English class. Junior year.
I know some people who unabashedly love the Crucible. I never could get into it.
It's such of a hard read. I mean, to me, it's up there with Animal Farm to try to decipher.
I kind of agree with you.
But also, mob mentality is a real thing.
It is interesting. The Crucible is interesting as far as, like, psychology goes.
Yes.
And
but it's such of a hard...
character dynamics are kind of mildly interesting.
It's such of a hard read.
I don't really find that era that interesting.
Because so much happens at one time.
Yeah.
Same with Animal Farm. It's a small book.
Learning about the Russian Revolution through pigs. Is that what that's a book's about?
No. Communism.
I thought it was Russian Revolution.
Nope. Communism, where the pigs were in charge.
It's been a very long time since I was in high school.
I had to do a report on it my senior year. I wanted to do Dracula, but no one else wanted to do Dracula, so I had to pick the last book available, and it was Animal Farm, and I got the 2 morons of my class.
So then we meet young Tom Riddle, played by Christian Colson, in a memory, and he basically reveals that he is Lord Voldemort.
Because Tom Marvovo Riddle reads out to I am Lord Voldemort.
Which, one of my favorite things, is the meme of, like, Voldemort writing out his various
in chicken scratch?
anagrams. And it's kind of inappropriate because there are a couple of them that are really inappropriate, but they are really, really funny. And apparently in the French translation, in order for his it to be just his Voldemort, his middle name has to be Albus. Fun fact.
Okay.
But yeah, there are a couple.
I doubt Elvis was a name back then.
But it's really funny. So I don't get how people, maybe it's because this series is so ingrained into my psyche, but I just don't understand how people don't see this coming.
What?
This plot twist. Like, it seems blatantly obvious to me now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really remember how I felt first reading it or first watching it. I don't remember if I was like,
yeah, I don't know.
It's been 20 years. Don't even get me started. So then the snake comes out and it's my worst nightmare. It's either that or, that a bunch of rats come out. That would be like my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
We'll get into like what our boggarts are in the next episode. And it's horrifying, and it's like 50 feet long, and it is my personal belief that the basilisk is a girl. Because the male basilisks have like plumes on the top of their heads. Kind of like male peacocks.
True.
So, it's my personal belief that this basilisk is a girl.
Yeah.
And supposedly it is the same basilisk as Herpo the Fowl in like the 1600s or something. Editing Sarah here. So I must have gotten my wires crossed here. Basilisk that Harry kills in the Chamber of Secrets is not in fact Herpo the Fowl's basilisk. Herpo the Fowl was the first to breed a basilisk back in ancient Greece, but they are not the same basilisk. Sorry about that. Just got my wires crossed a little bit. So then Fox flies in and blinds the basilisk, and he also gets the sorting hat, and Tom is like mocking him, like that's what he sends his great defender, a songbird and an old hat.
Didn't Gryffindor make the hat?
Yes.
Okay. So the hat is like 1,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Or did he create the book, not the hat?
He created both.
Okay.
So then I find specifically this one shot of like Harry running through the pipes, and then he gets like backed into a corner and he has to like throw the stone to get the basilisk. Mm-hmm. Like, I find that really creepy. I hate that shot. The shot where like the basilisk is like spitting all over him.
Yeah.
So then basically he stabs the basilisk through the roof of her mouth, and this is Matthew's like biggest plot hole in the entire freaking series.
So the Fang. Spoiler alert, Harry's a Horcrux.
We've already said it like 5 times.
Spoiler alert. I'm just saying it so that people realize, but 99% of the entire world has seen Harry Potter. Besides most people on YouTube haven't somehow. But the Fang killed the book, which was a Horcrux, which should have killed the Horcrux in Harry.
What really boils down to is she didn't think of it yet.
Then she should have wrote in there, oh, Harry was a Horcrux, and the snake bit him.
See, I think it would have been interesting if Harry found out.
Tear.
See, okay, there's two things. One, I think either it should have been where he finds out that he was a Horcrux, but the Basilisk Fang killed the Horcrux in Harry already, which I think would kind of negate the whole King's Cross limbo situation.
Yes.
Or Fawkes restored it. Would he have gone to limbo in the Chamber of Secrets and, like, met up with his mom or something.
No, he went to Limbo because
Voldemort did it.
No, because he had the Resurrection Stone.
The Resurrection Stone has nothing to do with Harry coming back. People grossly misinterpret that.
That's what the Resurrection...
No, it's not. The Resurrection Stone literally, in the story, literally explicitly said that the girl he hoped to marry came back as a kind of a ghost. And he couldn't be with her, or she couldn't be with him in the mortal world. And so he...
No, she came back as a shell of her original self. And so he killed himself because it wasn't her true self. It was a shell of her.
I always interpreted it as, like
no.
You know how, like, Harry sees his family right before he's about to die?
Yes.
Like, I always interpreted it as that.
No, the Resurrection Stone resurrects you.
I don't think that's how... That's not how I always read it.
What's this stone called? Resurrection.
That's how it's said in the Tale of the Three Brothers, though.
No, in the Tale of the Three Brothers, she came back to... He used the stone to bring his
But
dead
she's not
body.
mortal.
She's a shell of her former self. She didn't have any of her personalities or feelings or anything like that. So he killed her himself because
I always
it wasn't
interpreted
his true
her
wife.
as to be like a ghost.
No, they
Of
said
sorts.
shell. She was a shell of her original being or something along those lines.
I don't know. Let me know if you guys interpreted it, which way you guys interpreted it. I've always thought that people, like, grossly misinterpret what the Resurrection Stone does, and that's not why that's not why Harry goes to Limbo. Harry goes to Limbo because Voldemort is the one that does the killing of the Horcrux. I don't know. Let me know who you guys think is right, because, like, I've never interpreted it that way.
Because he had the Resurrection Stone on him.
So...
And he met Death as an old friend. Dumbledore's dead.
Anyway, we will talk about that more in Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
But... yeah, so Fawkes, because Phoenixes have healing powers. I love this story about Fawkes the Phoenix that they talked about in the reunion, about which, by the way, if you haven't seen the reunion, you need to watch it. It's very, very, very heartwarming and very sweet.
It's filmed in a weird way.
I like it. There's this scene between Daniel Radcliffe and Chris Columbus where they're talking about Fawkes, and Richard Harris, like, thought that Fawkes was real and not an animatronic.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's amazing how much they train these animals. And Richard Harris, like, unfortunately passed away before anyone could tell him the truth.
Yeah.
And I find that so funny and so charming. But yeah, Phoenixes have healing powers, and they can hold immensely heavy loads. So Harry stabs the book, which I don't get how he knew to do that, but whatever.
He's Harry's dummy. He's like, let's just try a book.
Harry's very, very impulsive.
Yeah.
And it explodes the memory of Voldemort, and Ginny wakes up, and then they all go up to the school, and there's this shot in Dumbledore's office where Dumbledore is talking to Harry, and he, like, gives him the sword, and Daniel Radcliffe grabs the sword by the blade, and I'm like, that is the weirdest scene direction. And there's this great line, this very famous Dumbledore quote about, it is not your abilities that make you who you truly are, it is your choices. And that is, like, a through line throughout the entire franchise.
Yeah,
Because really what it boils down to, Harry, Voldemort, and Draco, all three of them, and many other characters too, but specifically those three, have a chance to make several choices throughout the entire series.
Or which three?
Harry, Voldemort, and Draco.
Yeah.
That greatly alter the series.
I mean, Harry and Voldemort are two sides of the same coin.
Well, yeah, but I really love this through line of, like, we all make choices in life.
I mean, even down to, like, the parents. One's a wizard, one's a muggle. Or muggle-born.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a lot of weird similarities between the two.
And then we meet up with Lucius again, and we learn that Lucius is Dobby's owner.
Yeah.
Which, again, don't get why that was a plot twist. You should have seen that from a mile away.
Dobby has been given a suck.
Dobby is free! And then this poses a question. There's a shot where Lucius is about to, like, he's angry at Harry for losing him his servant, and he casts a spell at Harry, and it sounds like he's about to say Avada Kedavra. Was he about to kill Harry? Because wasn't it kind of a big no-no to, like, none of the Death Eaters can do that?
They didn't know. Voldemort was dead.
I just thought that was... Rewatching the movies, I find that insane.
A lot of the Death Eaters...
Because he goes, Avada!
Because a lot of the Death Eaters, I doubt, knew about the prophecy.
Yeah, I get that, but it just is
like,
crazy to me.
But why would all the Death Eaters go along with, hey, let's kill these kids. Let's kill these babies.
I don't understand why Lucius is like, oh, this 12-year-old lost me my servant. I'm going to kill him. On school grounds in front of Dumbledore's office.
But,
Dumbledore's office is literally right there.
I have a plot hole for it.
Oh, God.
I have a plot hole. Technically, Lucius did not give the clothing because it was Harry's sock. So, technically...
Dobby opened the thing.
Because Harry gave him the book. So, technically, Harry freed Dobby. Which would still make Dobby being owned by Lucius Malfoy.
Which poses another question. How did they give Dobby, or any house elf for that matter, laundry to do?
To own.
No, but like, okay, here's a basket of clothes to wash. But like, we're not giving you clothes.
I don't know.
So then...
There's so many plot holes in this movie. There's so many plot holes in this franchise.
Ron gets instructed to go send an owl to free Hagrid, and they all go to dinner, and they all cheer, and Hermione comes back, and they awkward hug.
But why would you send a child to send an owl?
Yeah, what did Ron write? Dear Azkaban, please free our friend. He's innocent.
Yeah.
Ron.
Like... So, are there jailers at Azkaban?
This is my question. Is a Dementor reading it and being like, okay. Or is it like a human being?
Like, are there humans at Azkaban?
I really have a lot of questions about how Azkaban is run. Is it run entirely by the Dementor?
No, it's run by the Ministry.
Is it run by the Aurors?
Yeah, it's run by the Aurors, but I don't think there's any Aurors there. So they might have sent it to the Ministry, and then a Ministry person went.
Yeah. Wonder what Hagrid's Patronus is.
He doesn't have a wand, so
His wand is in his umbrella.
Really?
I would think it would be a hippogriff.
I don't know.
Or a baby dragon.
I would love to have a snake as a Horcrux.
Mine's a cat. As a Horcrux?
Yeah.
You mean as a Patronus?
Patronus.
Mine's a cat, which is the most basic of all of them.
Yeah.
My best friend, who's on our Spider-Man Homecoming episode, hers is a unicorn, and I'm jealous. And it's like one of the three most rare ones.
Can't Voldemort cast Patronus?
No, none of the Death Eaters can.
I thought Voldemort could.
I think Dumbledore's is I'm pretty sure his is like a Thestral or something.
Maybe. I thought I read that Voldemort's was a Thestral also. That Voldemort was the only one that could...
No, Dumbledore's is a Phoenix. And I think...
Voldemort's is a Thestral. because...
No, I got that mixed up because the Elder Wand has a thestral hair in it.
Mm-hmm. But I think Voldemort can cast one because he loves pain and stuff. Like,
yeah, because happiness means something to different people.
yes. Like, I understand that the Death Eaters can't, but Voldemort, I read that he has a Patronus.
But the Patronuses are inherently, like, good magic. So maybe they're incapable of...
No, because if you can do dark magic,
But
you can do good
Lupin
magic.
only specifies that it's a happy memory. You can interpret that in any which way.
Voldemort killing the Potters could be... I mean, no. That wouldn't be a happy memory, because he got defeated. When he made the Horcruxes, do you think he's in pain when he makes the Horcrux?
Maybe when he kills his dad or something.
Didn't he kill his mom? Also?
No. His mom, like, died shortly after childbirth.
Yeah.
Probably due to complications, because it was the 20s.
Because, here's the thing. The Gaunts were poor and the Riddles were rich.
Mm-hmm.
And his
like, mom's family was, like, destitute.
Yeah. And so, like, the Riddle, his dad's dad.
And his maternal grandfather and maternal uncle, so his mom's dad, they both spent a lot of time in Azkaban. So Merope was kind of on her own a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And unable to work because everybody in town knew who her family was.
Yeah. Like, because I read that the Riddles were very, very wealthy.
That's why she sold the locket, was to make money.
Because the locket was Slytherins and the ring was Slytherins.
Ow.
Which the ring was the Resurrection Stone.
Yeah.
Which, that begs another question. How could he have made a Horcrux out of such of a powerful item?
I don't think he knew.
I mean...
Because Voldemort only wanted the Elder Wand, and because he had heard the stories about this, like, unbeatable wand.
True.
I don't think he knew... and invisibility cloaks were a thing outside of the Hallows.
Yeah.
So I just think he just assumed that the wand was the only one that actually existed.
No,
if that makes
I know.
sense.
I'm not saying that he knew. What I'm saying is usually something with that much magic is protected.
Yeah, I don't know.
I still think it's dumb that Harry left the Resurrection Stone there.
So, as cheesy as this ending scene is, with everybody clapping and hugging, and, like,
That's
everybody hugging Hagrid is...
That's how every movie
I do
ends.
find this scene very heartwarming and sweet.
That's how every Harry Potter movie ends, is with everyone smiling, laughing, and clapping.
We get the first little iteration that Ron and Hermione might have something. But it was only because Emma Watson didn't want to hug both of them in front of the entire group, because she was, like, 11.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the end of Chamber of Secrets.
Why'd you just say it with a French accent?
I don't know.
You're freaking weird. I love you, but you're weird.
So what are your final thoughts?
The first two aren't my favorites.
Did you like the book as a kid?
I think the first Harry Potter book I actually read was the third one. Because I think that was the first one that I personally owned. Because my grandma had them all, or up to that point, she had the first two, and I read them there. I think those are the two that I've read the least amount of times.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always read 3 on the most, just because I really never liked the first 2.
3 is, especially the movie, is widely received as, like, everybody's favorite.
Because it's the first of
I loved it as a
the
kid.
dark. Like, and it's the first one that doesn't directly... it's the only one that does not correlate
I find
with
Prisoner of
Voldemort.
Azkaban... I'll probably say this a lot in the next episode, but I find Prisoner of Azkaban to be, like, a good, cozy day, rainy day movie.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's, like, I don't know. It's a fun movie. We haven't rewatched the movies prior to... because we didn't feel like we needed to rewatch the first 2. We might rewatch them from here on out. Maybe.
I don't know.
I pretty much have them memorized at this point, so I don't really need to.
Same. I mean, to an extent. I can always look on, like, a wiki page about...
But, yeah, I actually, like, I think because Chamber of Secrets has such... it plants a lot of seeds for later, that I think it is super integral and important. And I think I've had a newfound appreciation for it, even though it's not my favorite book nor movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Next week we will be covering Prisoner of Azkaban, diving into some time travel, and we shall see y'all in the next episode.
Bye.
If you would like to support this podcast, please consider checking out our merch store at thefanclubpodcast.myspreadshirt.com. You can get exclusive designs designed by us on t-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, stickers, and many other items. We will have limited edition designs in the very near future. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias for updates on what we're working on in real time. We're part of the Needlessly Nerdy Entertainment Network. They're a conglomerate of podcasts and blogs that provide entertainment, news, and reviews about all things nerdy, including movies, TV, books, video games, tabletop games, cons, pop culture, and more. Go check out all of the amazing shows on the network at needlesslynerdy.com.
Needlessly Nerdy, your source for all things nerdy.
www.needlesslynerdy.com.